their apology, they could shove their apology up there. Hemi Panarin definitely looked like he got his mojo back. He got an assist. I was wrong. Big. Welcome back to another episode of The Final Buzzer. I'm your host, John Polkowski, and with me, I have Matt from Rangers Central, special guest with me tonight. Thank you for hopping on with me. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem, man. Big win tonight. Let's go.
Big win, and let's go is definitely the theme here, but a little sloppy.
Yeah, definitely. I thought like when watching it live, I thought the first 5 minutes of the first period, I thought the Rangers came out really slow. I thought Washington had the momentum. Obviously, they did capitalize Connor McMichael at that goal, but then the last 15 minutes, I thought the Rangers settled down and they finished off the first period well. Obviously, they got the goal from Trocheck and the goal from Meek on the power play. Then second period, I didn't like the second period at all. I thought
No.
for at least like I'll give them this. They finished off the period well the last 5 minutes, and they got out of that period with a 4-2 lead. But the first 15 minutes, it was all Washington. I think the Rangers just gave them way too much respect. I think they gave them way too much of the puck. And then the third period, they needed to play a good shutdown period. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was great either. Couple dumb mental mistakes. You got the too many men on the ice penalty. Then the dumb play by Wenberg where he should have dumped the puck in. Obviously,
Yeah.
the play came back the other way. Wilson got the goal, and then they just couldn't clear the puck out of the last 2.5 minutes. But they got it done. And like I always say, it's never easy with the Rangers. They always got to make you sweat.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, the way that I looked at this was that I knew that Washington was going to push back, to be expected, obviously, after the way that they got nearly ran out of the building in Game One. I mean, cardiac Rangers is
Hmm.
definitely the case from Evan, and definitely again. Just make sure that you guys check out Rangers Central. By the way, Evan would have been with us, but there were some train problems. So his Rempe another Fatigue? I don't know about that. That's actually a good question. But yeah, they definitely need to stop taking penalties. It's one of the biggest things that I've seen is just that. Yeah, McCauley's horrible. McCauley's a joke. Sutherland's bad. But there were some penalties that they should have never taken. The too many men one was just like you said, a bad mental mistake. I just thought that they were very sloppy all around. It just seemed like they were I don't know. They just took them kind of lightly in this game at points. I like the way that they handled that original like storm from them, but the goal was kind of meh. Like you can't go and do that. You really can't. They gotta clean it up. You're gonna face Carolina likely in the next series, and then you're going to go from this team that really can't skate with you, that's old, doesn't really skate well, doesn't have any depth, has trouble scoring goals, and you're letting up two power play goals to a mediocre power play, like a middle to bottom of the league power play. It's an issue, and they need to fix that penalty kill. They need to be better all around, but happy to get out of there with a 2-0 win. Don't really like the way they did it though.
Definitely. And even I liked what Johnny Lazarus tweeted right after the game, how he said that Peter Laviolette didn't look happy at all.
No.
And that's why, and listen, that's why I trust him because he knows that, yes, they got the win, but he knows that they have to play a lot better. And now, especially going into Washington, where you have a chance to take a stranglehold lead, they have to be ready for game 3 because this is do or die for the Caps right here. Because most likely, if the Rangers go up 3-0, the series is done. So the Caps gonna come out flying, but I have trust in Lavi that he's gonna have the boys ready to play.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was talking to a mutual of mine on Twitter, and he was saying that, and basically saying that if this was Gallant, I wouldn't be as I'd be a lot more concerned with this team right now because Gallant really couldn't ever make those adjustments. Laviolette and this staff throughout the season, were able to make those adjustments, able to get them ready for those wins. The only thing that really concerns me about Game 3 is the start. It's the start. It's Washington coming out in front of their home crowd with their backs against the walls. It's the wounded animal theory. Like you have an animal wounded and backed up in a corner. How are they going to come out and react? They're going to come out fighting, and that's especially after the hit that Oshie took from Panarin. Clean hit, completely clean hit. But Washington's going to take umbrage with that, and I think shenanigans are going to happen. The Rangers have got to be ready for all of it, and they've got to be ready for a team that really isn't a great skating team to skate a lot harder than they probably skated all season. So, but I do agree with John here. Having the extra game, or the extra day until game 3 helps. They need to work on a few things, and yeah, penalty killing, big. I don't know how you let up 2 power play goals to this team. I really don't. Power play is not good. Ovechkin doesn't really have that great one timer from that slot that spot anymore. I mean, they don't have a lot of options on that power play, so they got to be a hell of a lot better than what they were tonight.
Ideally, listen. Ideally, I would want them to sweep, but I want them to at least take one at Washington. And I was saying this before to Evan and the guys in my group chat, in our group chat, but I want them to win Game 3 instead of Game 4 if they're gonna split. I don't want them losing Game 3 and then having that doubt creep back into their mind. We're saying, oh no, it's happening again. This team has to beat the up 2-0 allegations, because the last 2
Yeah.
series
Oh yeah.
against Tampa and against the Devils, up 2-0, they blew it. And listen, since we're on Big Apple hockey, it's a tradition. We got to throw a layup. We got to throw a layup here. Philk, do the Rangers not want to blow a 2-0 series lead this year?
I don't know. I wish Mark was around because I would tell him to get the hoop. But I mean, it's funny because we always talk about cardiac Rangers and how they have to make things hard on us and so on. And this team just has a penchant for doing that. The only times I can really ever recall them just really stiff, like kind of sticking the knife in the throat right away and twisting it to really end it would be like 2007 against Atlanta, where they just absolutely stepped on their throats. And it's funny because Atlanta had a decent roster. I mean, were they the best playoff team I've ever seen? No, but they had a decent roster. They had talent. You had Marian Hossa, Ilya Kovalchuk, Bobby Holik, Keith Kachuk on that roster. I believe Scott Mellenby was on there too, if I was correct. I mean, they had a bunch of guys on that roster that were good players. And then the other time I could think of was 2015 against Pittsburgh, and they went to Game 5 in overtime, and I was there for that game. It's funny. I always look back at that game because Carl Hagelin scored the same exact goal to win that series in Game 5 as he did in the Mika Zibanejad 5-goal game in the same exact spot. Just go back and watch it. It's the same exact move to the same exact spot, the same exact angle, everything. It's just I just feel like putting those 2 pictures next to each other and just saying time is a flat circle. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because if they could take Game 3, this series is over. I think in 4. I don't think Washington recovers at that point. I just don't think they have what it takes to really get things done. And I like this comment from IR for Life. You know, Glenn Anderson said in the Stanley Cup Finals video in '94, coming back home with a 3-1 series lead when their athlete has their backs against the wall, they're going to play with everything they got. And that's why Game 3 is that important.
Definitely. I think they another big reason why they got to end this series quickly is because, you look at the most likely matchup they're going to face in Carolina. I think, and I'm sure you guys will bring this up tomorrow on your guys' show, so make sure everybody tune in tomorrow for Big Apple Hockey's live stream. But I think, like you guys are going to mention, I think last night, I think the Hurricanes broke the Islanders. Because because now I could see that series ending in a sweep. So
yeah,
the Rangers now have another reason to end that series quickly.
Yeah, it's bad because I thought that was the one chance that the Islanders really had to kind of get back into that series and win it. It's yeah, you could say the Islanders really kind of broke the Islanders, and I'm not here to run just run them down or anything, but you can't lose that game, and you can't have one shot in the third period. It just reminds me of Game 7 against Washington in 2015. The Islanders scored a goal, and then they had one shot. They had, I think, maybe like 7 shots like the rest of that game. I think that game in total, I think they had like 11 shots in that Game 7 against Washington in 2015, and they lost that series. So it kind of reminded me of that in a way, even though they, like I said, they had the 3-goal lead, but it just, the rest of the game just felt like a microcosm. It just so far away from what it was earlier on. Not sure if we talk. Joey D.
Joey D.
Joey D. Not so sure if you talked about it already. So the PK wasn't good. I thought they were aggressive and they got the shorty. Yeah, but you let up 2 power play goals. I mean, shorthanded goals good. You let up 2 power play goals to a unit that's really not that great. They got to be better. They got to be better. So I just think that with a unit like that, when you're not getting the production from your all-time great goal scorer and Alexander Ovechkin, you can force the other options to step up and be the contributors. They're not getting the other guys are stepping up, and that's the thing. Like, you can't let these guys score like Wilson. You can't let him have power play goals. You can't. You gotta make Ovechkin be the one that beats you, because the other guys really don't have it in them, and they managed to get 2 goals. But I mean, the power play's been good. Or I mean, penalty kill's been good for the vast majority of the season. So I'd imagine it's probably just a bad night, and they'll figure it out on Friday.
Yeah, I think if there's a positive from this game, or at least from the last 2 games, I think that them being able to win 2 different ways is really good. I mean, obviously the first game, the power play wasn't really that great. Penalty kill was good, but they got those goals at 5v5, and they did play well at 5v5 in game 1. Game 2 tonight, not so much a 5v5, but you know what? The power play stepped up. They got the 2 goals, one from Mika, one from Rosvik, which was a really nice shot from him, and they got the nice PK goal. So special teams is working tonight. Now, ideally, I think you just want to combine them both and make sure they're effective together in the same game going forward.
Yeah, and I'm not terribly worried about the PK. I mean, with Pekka and Housley and Muse there, I'm really not that worried about it. I think that they'll clean it up. It's just, I thought that at times the penalty killers were kind of all over the place at times, and and you can just chalk that up to a bad game, I would say, because normally their penalty kill is stout, and they just got a little too aggressive at times, which I get it. I get it with a unit that's not good, that's struggling. You want to be aggressive with them and kind of just stick the knife in them and just really wear them down and completely ruin their confidence. But I think they went out of their way to be over aggressive, and that's kind of like them stepping out of their comfort zone. Laviolette will make the adjustment next game. I'm not worried about that, and they'll be better. But it's just with the next series, and like I said, I try not to look too far ahead to Carolina, but if you lose this series, then all the heads have to roll. So I don't see them losing 4 out of 5 games or losing 4 games in a row or anything like that. But you're going to have to play a much better team with a much better power play next series. So got to start making the adjustments now and just being better.
Yeah, definitely 100%. I think you were seeing it though, like you said, with the penalty kill being a little off today. I definitely do think they were trying to expose the Caps' lack of speed by just trying to be that little bit aggressive and then trying to catch them on the counterattack, because we know they're not the fastest team in the world. But like you said, while it may work in this series, and obviously they did give up the 2 goals tonight, but while the aggressive penalty kill may work in this series, if they do end up playing Carolina in the second round, which is most likely at the moment, it that's a series where it's all about team shape and being in the right position, and
Yeah.
just make sure you're not getting out of position, because Carolina will hurt you.
Oh, absolutely. And they have all of the guys on that unit that can really make that happen. And that's the thing that I worry the most about is with a team like that, a better power play, quicker movement, more aggressive plays, and they just have options out the wazoo. So you really got to worry about them. But I'm actually with Joey Fax D over here. All three of the Caps goals were sort of like Rangers self-inflicted wounds. I mean, the too many men penalty, the Rempe, that penalty on Rempe was a joke. That was a joke. It's a complete sell job. I get it. They're going to call reputation penalties on him. They called that charge, which wasn't a charge. Clearly wasn't a charge on him in game one. But I get it. But I do agree. It's self-inflicted. You got to stay out of the box, whatever the case may be. If you know McCauley and Sutherland are going to be calling the games and they're going to call this ticky-tacky crap against you, discipline. Clean it up. Don't give them a chance to be a factor in these games. Just don't. Because Washington's not good enough to stay with the Rangers if they're not given a chance to be factors. We all know it. Everyone knows it. And yes, the reffing was shit. Yeah, absolutely agree. But again, self-inflicted. And one other thing before I hand it over to Matt. Check out Joey D on Ice Cold Takes. Great dude. Great show.
Fax D.
Check out his facts. Fax D is Joey Fax D right now. Spitting facts. Hot fire like fucking Dylan from Chappelle's show. I spit hot fire.
Yeah, no, I thought usually I'm not the person. I don't like to blame the refs. I usually just like to just look at the team's game and how they played and just go off by that. But yeah, the officiating so far in this series it's not great at all. I mean, I thought like going back to like what you said in game one with the Rempe penalty. I didn't think it was a charge, but I did think it was a boarding call. So I thought it should have been a penalty. But yeah, some of the missed calls tonight were just bad. I mean, you had the Mika trip, you had the you had the Panarin high stick, which they didn't call.
Nope.
It's not great.
And then what's his name? Stung. What was it? Malenstein swung a stick at Schneider and hit him in the face and bloodied him up. Like, how is that not a call? Like, I just, yeah. And the one thing I'll say here is Mike MYR for life is right. Yeah, they to be able to deal with McCauley, which is probably going to be the worst official they're going to deal with. They overcame it and they still won. Sure, it was sloppy, but I mean, they're playing two different entities at this point. So it's good that they were able to do that. The inconsistency is maddening. Yeah, listen, Mike, I get it. I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't get how for 2 to 3 weeks they could probably say that they swallowed the whistles a bit, and then they can come back and then they could call it so inconsistently and call so many of these borderline little penalties. I don't understand it. I really don't. It's annoying. And at this point, you don't want to see the refs decide a game or a series with a penalty. But at the same time, like, I don't understand how they can turn around and say, oh, we don't want to decide games. But then they're going to call the weakest calls possible and call it one way against one team. Screw the Rangers button.
It's with refs for me. It's not about, because look, bad calls gonna happen. It happens for everybody, but at least make it consistent. That's the one thing for me. Like, if you're gonna call it one way, make sure you call it the other way.
Yeah, and this is a good comment here from Romanello. I mean, I've played for 30 years as well. I know you've played for a while as well, Matt. I mean, it's like, what's interference anymore? I mean, remember how they were calling Fox for like the incidental contact at the line? every chance. And then the Rangers players were getting blasted and there were no calls for it. Like there's no consistency on what the definitions are to any of these calls anymore. It's insane. And it's almost like the NHL is too afraid to actually hold them accountable for it. I'm just not understanding it anymore. I'm really not.
Yeah, I mean, like what Joey put in the comments. I have a bunch of those '94 games. I have all the Devils games from the conference final. I have all the games from the final, and the way that guys were able to just the difference in penalty calling was crazy. I mean, basically there was no hooking back then. You could just you could just tag along for a ride. I mean, it was crazy just how much different the game is today from I mean just 30 years ago, which sounds like a long time, but it really isn't when you think about it. Comment
D. So the last image I had of the playoffs as an 11-year-old was Eric Lindros water skiing past Mark Messier to score an empty net goal. And it just back then it was ridiculous. It was absolutely absurd what you could do back then. Like the stick infractions that would be called today with what they were doing back then. Like if you're gonna call it like that, okay, fine, but it's got to be consistent every game. It's got to be consistent for both sides. I mean, do I want to see that? No, but I understand they're going to swallow the whistles a bit, so it's going to happen. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. It's like that in all pro sports. There's a montage of bad Angel Hernandez calls on YouTube, but the league won't hold them accountable. Yeah, pretty much. These referee unions are some of the strongest unions in all of any line of work because they never get held accountable for anything they do wrong. Unless you're like Tim Donaghy or like Tim Peel or someone like that, and you get caught on a hot mic doing something, or you get caught in like a gambling ring compromising the integrity of the game. That's really it. Like if it's a bad call and it's consistent bad calls that are causing guys, like I remember when Jim Joyce costed Armando Galarraga's perfect game, and Jim Joyce apologized for him. He literally cried because he felt so bad for him. But like, you don't see any type of accountability like that from Sutherland or McCauley. Oh, look at who we have here. Look at who we have here. Is this an audio version of Evan?
You're going to get Transportation E here.
Transportation E.
Broken down E.
Broken down E. We have comment D, and then we have broken down E. Oh God! What are your thoughts?
Dog shit than the officiating. It's the trains.
So
that's for damn sure.
What are you? LIRR?
Yeah,
yeah, that shit broke down.
Jeez. Usually it's not LIRR. I always hear bad things about the.
I don't know why my audio just crapped out.
The NJ Transit, the NJ stuff is always really bad from what I hear. I hear a lot of stuff about that. Train E, LIRRE. Whoever it is clearly using my internet. My internet is not.
No, that's Anthony's internet.
That's Anthony's internet. It's not mine. It's Anthony's. I don't know what you're talking about, Romanello. Anthony's is always the one that craps out.
Yeah, it's always Anthony.
Yeah. So how was that building? How was that environment? And because we heard the calls, I heard that these refs suck chants and stuff and all that other stuff. So what was that like being there tonight?
Electric. The Keandre Miller goal, that is the loudest for outside of an overtime winner that I've heard. That building, that Miller goal had the building blow the roof off. But yeah, the refs too. There was also like some Washington fan that got kicked out by my section too. So people were giving that guy shit too. It was nuts, that building.
Oh my God! Mike saying I almost woke my kids up when they scored that goal. That's great. Oh yeah, I almost woke up my friend's son with that. So yeah.
I wanted to yell at my job, but I had to hold it in.
So you don't get caught watching.
Oh no, I mean there was really no one there at the store at that time, but still, they don't want to hear some fucking crazy guy on the cash register yelling because Keandre Miller scored a goal to put the Rangers up 4-2.
Oh God, that would be something else. Ever saying, I feel like this clown Oshie and these clowns Oshie and Wilson are taking a lot of cheap shots at Panarin. Hey, you know what? Panarin fought back, and that was great because that's not something you normally see out of Artemi Panarin. I like that. I don't think this was his best game tonight, but I really do love the fact that he threw that hit on Oshie. Like that's saying, okay, I'm not going to take your shit. Like you think you're going to like slow me down and take me out of the series by playing me physically? Okay, I'll go right back at you.
The second line in general was off tonight.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Lafreniere was really good, though. He had 2 assists in this game.
Well, yeah, I mean more so like with the puck. They had a bit of an off night. Like off the puck, Lafreniere, these 2 games in general, has been throwing bod like I've never seen him before.
Yeah, Lafreniere. So, you know what? I can't say I've never seen this before from Lafreniere. I just don't think we've seen this since juniors with him.
That's true.
Yeah, Laffy, from what I watched, that was beautiful goal by Forsberg here. My God, 2-0 Nashville. But Lafreniere threw the body a ton in Rimouski and at the World Juniors. I mean, you watch the highlight packages. He throws it around regularly. But I love the way he played tonight. I thought he was the best player on that line, and I honestly would say he was probably one of their 3 best players tonight.
I thought though we did see that a little bit from him in the 2022 playoffs on that kid line. He was one of the guys that really went into the corners and fought for pucks. At that time though, the production wasn't there. Now you're starting to see the production because he's had this good breakout year, and now he just puts that production together with that physical play in the corners. He could be a real menacing player and just a really good, just all-around player for the top 6.
Yeah, I would definitely agree there. I think Romanello's right about Kakko. I think Kakko played a pretty good game, pretty solid game.
I still want to see him get to the middle of the ice more.
Yeah, definitely would agree there. But I thought he was really good with the puck along the boards.
I thought the third
he was good defensively, and honestly, with the way that Wenberg played, he did not have the best game.
Kakko, that turnover.
Turnover.
That Kakko was probably the best player on that line. Oh, Cooley was okay. Cooley could have had a goal. He had a really good chance, and I thought he was going to score, but wasn't able to put it on net. So, but Kakko played great, I thought.
That's the biggest thing so far with the third line with me. I think they've played well these first 2 games. You need that goal scoring. You know, you got the goal scoring from the 4th line, but the third line has to be a more prominent goal scoring line coming, eventually, coming deeper into this playoffs.
Filipino,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy because he is close to coming back. He's very, very close to coming back. I just think Laviolette doesn't want to rush him, and I think that with this series, going to be 3-0 Preds now. Wow, Cold Sissons, jeez. Oh man, this could be it for Vancouver. This could be the upset because if Demko's out for the rest of this series, oh man, that's no good for them because they are not getting the goaltending right now. But again, Vancouver's defense. This is why I was talking about their defense all along. Just look at this, and then now you Quinn Hughes plays Beauvillier soft there, and then that rebound comes right back out front and Pedersen. And I just, you know what? I think Everest might be right here. I think they may be saving Heedle for Carolina.
That's what I would do. I think they hold them out for the series. You get it over in 4 or 5. And I think for game 1 against Carolina, if they do play Carolina, I think you put them in for game 1 because I don't want to keep holding them out and then they have to put them in where they're down in the series because I just think the rust factor is important and it's going to play a factor. So just let them have a couple games to get back into game shape, and game 1, new series, just let them out there and let them have it.
Sorry, I had to plug in. It's not getting a little low on battery. But the only thing that I would say to kind of counter that would be that if you're up ahead in this series and you can bring Heedle back, wouldn't you want him to play like a game or so before facing Carolina? Because Carolina is not something you want to just walk into cold.
I agree with that.
Big one.
I agree with that. And the other counter I have to everyone saying that he's going to have rust, which is true, but everybody else is banged up in the playoffs. He's going to be a fresh body compared to everyone else.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true.
But game shape is something that you just can't. You got to play to get back into game shape.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, there's no
It
simulation.
goes both ways.
I mean, and cardio is a big thing, and that's something that you work on, outside of the game itself. But the stop and start of hockey is a different type of cardio that you can only get from actually playing in games. So while being in overall physical shape is important, I definitely have to say that. There's no way to simulate game shape itself.
I agree.
And, the rust factor from Dave here, the rust factor is another reason why I want Isles Canes to go 7 hard-fought games. Not just that, but you want them to go 7 hard-fought games and just beat the piss out of each other because you want that whatever team advances to really come in and be kind of beat up. You want to prey on a team like that, basically. So.
I have a hard time seeing that series even go 5 at this rate.
Yeah, like I told Phil earlier in the stream, I think Carolina broke the Islanders last night. I can seriously see them sweeping them.
Yeah, a loss like that demoralizes a group.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Chris T saying that he thinks the Islanders can tie this series. I'm not sure because, to me, that was their best chance to win. Whoa, what a big hit by Sissons, by whoever that was. But I think that was their best chance to win that series. And the way that they blew that game in the manner that they did and with as little time as they had left, I can't believe that they blew that lead the way that they did and only got one shot. Here's the other thing for me. I don't know if Patrick Waugh is enough of a leader of men and enough of a great coach to, one, be able to outcoach Brind'Amour to make those adjustments, and 2, if that roster is good enough to overcome the amount of depth, speed, and skill in Carolina's roster.
There's just no way.
Yeah, no. They're just the Islanders roster is just nowhere near Carolina's roster, and I think just the big red flag with Roy is you go up 3-0, and you decide to just sit back the entire game. I mean, you have to know that in that building with all that talent that Carolina has, that once that first one went in, all the pressure and momentum just swung their way. And instead of just counteracting it, they just kept sitting back. And it's not a surprise that Carolina ended up winning that game. I knew once that first goal went in, I'm like, Carolina's making some sort of comeback here.
Yeah, we saw it in the Stadium Series firsthand.
Yeah. You're absolutely right about that, Evan. And it just, not only that, but you figured that this whole, blowing or blowing leads trend would be over with the change from Lambert to Waugh. Really didn't change much. Really, it still really hasn't. So it tells me that it's more of a players issue than it is a coaching staff issue. But definitely,
Which, I mean, we definitely knew that for a bit too, because like, how many times have we talked about how Lou should get fired? Like, I don't understand how. I don't think he keeps his job after this year. There's no way. It would have to be a parting of ways, obviously, worded
Yeah.
that way. But I don't see how you could keep him.
and I don't see the management or the ownership, like I said, firing him, and obviously they're gonna do it as a mutual parting of the ways type thing, as you said. But I just can't see how he stays there. There's got to be some sort of discussion amongst the hierarchy there where they're saying to themselves, like, hey, you know what? This guy's made one move to try to make this team better in the last however many years, like one legitimate move. Like everyone talked about Palmieri and Zajac a couple of years back. They're not real needle movers. Horvat's a little more of a needle mover, but they still haven't been able to go make that move to make this team better and put them over the top. And just you also got to think about the bad contracts he's given out to bottom six players, and the fact that one of the reasons why they can't go get that score is because they're cap strapped, because they have these terrible contracts for guys like Pajot and Clutterbuck and Mayfield and Engvall. You're getting like 6-7 year deals, Barkley Goodrow type contracts to Engvall and stuff like that. No, it's not how you win. You don't win with that. You win with center depth. You win with goaltending, and you win with star players. They haven't been able to draft well either because they don't finish low enough in the standings to get those high picks anymore, and they're not getting those talents. So, I mean, to me, when does it come back on Lou Lamoriello? When does the ownership finally say, "Hey, you know what? I think we've run our course."
The build off of that. Sorry, I was going to say, it's a build off of that. He hasn't been able to lure any big free agents at all into that organization, and he was brought here to help do that. Hasn't been able to do that. And at what point does ownership say, all right, well, you burned all these draft assets, and we're still not getting over the hump at all. If anything, we've taken a step back. This is on you. Like, how do you burn all that draft capital and not lure one superstar with it?
Yeah, I was gonna say though that the Islanders are just such in a weird position where it's like you said, they're not bad, but they're also not great. And it's like if they do fire Lou, it's like where do you take this team? Because it's like you can't really rebuild with them because it's like who are you trading? You're not gonna trade Brock Nelson. You just locked up Horvat. He's not going anywhere. You're not trading Barzell. The only two guys I really think you could trade is either Pellick or Pollock, but even then, their value is nowhere near where it was a couple years ago. It's dipped a lot. So it's like, where do they go? It's like,
Yeah, you're
I
not
don't
getting
know.
anything, and if you open up that cap, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Sign guys that are like depth players and just add to the problem and not solve it because big free agents don't want to go there.
Yeah, it's not all right. So Long Island's a very nice place to live if you have the money to do it. Obviously, all three of us being there. I think that it's just the organization itself, and I don't think players want to play for somebody like Lou Lamoriello, these big free agents, because of he has like a certain set of rules. He tries to run his operation kind of like George Steinbrenner, but the problem is that in the last 20 years he hasn't had that success. And when you have that success and you have that winning mentality, guys are going to want to come there and deal with those rules and deal with the culture that you create with your strict rules. But it's just a long time ago, and it's not working. And I think the game has really kind of just passed him by.
Definitely, and you could just see it with all the huge expensive bottom six deals that he's given out to players like Pajot, like Ingval. Like you don't. That's not how you build cup-winning teams anymore by handing out big contracts to bottom six. I mean, it was never like that anyway. But you gotta the bottom six got to be the guys that you draft and develop. And with that cap, that's where you go, and you got to lure those big guys. Where unfortunately the Islanders haven't been able to. I mean, you miss out on guys like Panarin. You miss out on a guy like Goodrow. You don't get a guy like Kadri. It eventually all catches up to you.
The Cadre one was the worst. The Cadre one was the absolute worst because of the fact that they could have had him, and they just kind of blew that up and mishandled it completely. So if they would have just, just kind of handled that situation with more kid gloves and realized that they're trying to bring in, Vancouver just scored 3-1 now. But if they would have just handled that situation just a little differently, they would have just they would have had him. But 7 years is absurd for a guy like Pierre Engvall. And I said Barclay Goodrow getting 6 was tough. And I don't know if you guys remember my comments about that contract when they got him or when they traded for him and then signed him to that deal. Was that are you still audio only, Evan?
No, yeah, I'm
yeah,
switching now.
Okay, now he's video too. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
But my comments about that contract was that in any type of contract signing, you got to win on at least one of the 3 fronts, and those fronts are AAV, term, and trade protection. The Rangers lost on all 3 fronts to Goodrow. All 3 fronts. They gave him a high AAV. They gave him 6 years, and he had partial no trade protection, which he should have never had. The Islanders are doing the same thing with that contract, and it just getting guys like Rempe into this lineup and Edstrom and Cooley, it just goes to show you how important being able to draft those bottom 6 talents are. And now this Ranger pipeline has a bunch of options coming through at with the bottom 6. I mean, you have Berard that could be up possibly even next season. You have Edstrom, who I think will be up next season. Brennan Othman could play games for them next year.
Sikora.
So, Sikora could be an option for him if you don't trade him. It's great to see that this team is finally starting to learn their lesson when it comes to this. But the Islanders, they haven't. So I don't think much is going to change.
No.
And I liked Engvall too. When they picked him up from Toronto in that trade, because like I said, I did like him in Toronto, but it's just and I liked when he first came there and he played with Brock Nelson and Kyle Palmieri. Those 3 as a line really fit nice together. But I think giving him the 7-year deal at that AAV was just too much. And then you tried to put him as a second liner. He's not a second liner. The best thing is he's a solid third liner, but then again, you don't give a third liner a 7-year deal at that AAV.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you have guys like Barzal and they had Wahlstrom, who I think they should have probably given more of a chance. Oliver Wahlstrom looks like a complete bust, but I will say that they completely mishandled him. They did. I mean, I look at the Rangers and the way that they've handled Kako and some of these other young guys and how things haven't worked out for them. I will say that the Islanders, I mean, they didn't really do Oliver Wahlstrom any favors because Barry Trotz just absolutely loved his veteran bottom 6 guys. This is actually a great question here from Joe Graves. What big player did Lou ever sign from outside of the organization? I mean, in New Jersey, I mean, he really didn't have any big free agent signings there. Like a lot of those acquisitions were trades. I mean, Doug Gilmour maybe. I mean, and Gilmour wasn't he was a decent, a somewhat big signing, but not a crazy big one. It just, I can't think of anybody that they really signed big time. And Newendike came to them through a trade. Stevens was an offer sheet. I mean, they ended up losing Shanahan.
David Tavares was Dubas. That was not Lou.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he did sign David Clarkson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big move.
Cool. Yeah. But it's honestly, it's just the one guy that they got was, and not even, you can't even use Kovalchuk in that equation, Joe, because Kovalchuk was a trade.
Yeah,
You got to remember that was a deadline deal, and then they signed him to that deal. So McGillney for Brendan Morrison was also a trade. That was a trade, and McGillney helped them win in 2000. But again, those are trades. We're talking strictly free agent signings, that not trades. Free agent signings. They haven't been able to do it. Lou hasn't.
Yeah, it looks great that you're in on all of them, but at some point, like, you're just the Mets then, and you're not signing them.
Yeah, you're basically the bridesmaid, never the bride. And
looking back at it now, like the last like 10 years and before, all those crazy contracts teams used to give out. I mean, like Devils gave Kovalchuk 15 years, something like that.
Yeah, it was a terrible. It was the real first cap circumvention deal that basically, just kind of got that. It basically screwed up all those types of deals for everybody. I mean, DiPietro was given that insane deal. Zetterberg, Hossa got one like that. A lot of those guys all got those crazy cap circumvention deals with the low AAVs and going down. But the Kovalchuk deal basically ruined that for everybody, and that was the last of its kind. So,
I mean, the Rangers gave Brad Richards what, like 12 years, 11 years, something like that?
No, it wasn't that long.
Maybe it was 9 years.
The Richards deal,
I think it was not.
I can't remember. I think it was 8. Could be wrong there, but I believe it was an 8-year deal. Maybe 9.
9 years from Christie said it.
So it was a 9-year deal worth $60 million. July 2nd, 2011. Yep. So, well, welcome to the show, John Petrucci. Ranger Nation is feeling pretty good right now. A little sloppy, but a win is a win in the playoffs. But got to improve come Friday. I think they will improve. I think they'll take a 3-0 lead in that series, and then hopefully they can close that out on Sunday.
Yeah, I was saying as I leave the Garden, don't make me be here for Game 5. Just don't make me be here.
Pro wants his money back.
I want my money back. I want my refund.
Yeah. Oh man. I think no, that's the wrong comment I meant. Remember where I was where the Rangers signed Richards? Yeah, I remember where I was as well. Pretty sure I was actually with Elrock when that happened, Anthony. I was looking forward to watching the Sackett documentary and getting to relive why the league decided to screw the Rangers for the next 3 decades.
Yeah, my dad told me about the documentary. It's going to be an interesting watch.
So for everyone, actually, I'll keep this comment up. For everyone who hasn't seen it yet, check out our interview with Neil Smith, because Neil Smith actually goes into this and tells us about it. Basically saying that he did not want to do it. It was really, the ownership, Dave Checketts and them, that wanted Sakic, and he told them straight up that it wasn't going to work. So, yeah, and Brad Richards to the Rangers was the worst kept secret in NHL history. The Rangers wanted Richards badly. They absolutely wanted him badly. This is definitely.
I was gonna say that Trouba these last 2 games, he's been really good, and the sheltered minutes has helped him a lot.
Yeah, he's been better. I'll give him that. He's definitely been better. I think both of them have been better away from each other. It's good on Jacob Trouba to have basically accepted that and taken the reduced minutes. Good on him to do it. And Keandre Miller has just been so much better for it. Braden Schneider and him have been a very good pairing. So I'm very, very happy to see that this has worked out for them.
I actually think Lindgren was the worst defenseman tonight, too.
Yeah, I don't think he played that well of a game.
I mean, listen, a lot of the Rangers' goals anyway, or the goals against, I should say, were, I think, excellent point D brought it up before that. A lot of it was because of them. Like, they got caught in a bad change there, but even then, like, he was getting walked on that play.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like him being banged up and then these minutes in the playoffs, these tougher minutes just catching up to him, because he's kind of been really up and down this year. But
that's what I'm worried about with extending him.
Yeah, that's my biggest worry too, is just that he's a smaller guy, and for him to be he's not small by any means, like 6 foot and like maybe 195, 200 pounds. It's not very big. It's not very big at all. And you really have to worry when it comes to that next contract, because as you've seen, guys that play that type of game at that size or smaller, they usually don't last very long unless they kind of modify the way that they play. Like Ryan Callahan, his body just went to complete crap. Like just broke down completely. So, I saw this on Twitter. I saw you giving yourself a pat on the shoulder on Twitter, Dave. Like, why? Why? Like, we don't need to be chanting Charlie at him yet. Like, hopefully that's the only this is the last chance we have to chant Charlie in this series, and it doesn't come back to the Garden for Game 5. But it's way too early for this. Way too early for this.
I
don't mind it.
I think another guy I want to see a little bit more from, and I think he's been solid the first 2 games. I think Fox. Fox has been solid defensively. I just want to see a bit more offense from him. I want to see him take that initiative.
I agree with that.
I'm actually with you on that. I really am.
I thought he was going to get on the score sheet tonight for sure. Even with just an assist.
Oh, man, that's a 4-2 Avalanche lead going on over there in Winnipeg. So, looks like this is going to be a series. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Gustafsson wasn't awful tonight. Got a nice assist. Yeah, I agree. You know what? That pairing in general of both of them actually have been decent. They haven't been – I wouldn't say they've been world beaters, but they've been better than I expected them to be in this series. So I'll take that and I'll run with it.
I don't know what he was doing hopping over the boards there, though, where he took it.
And he had the bad delay of game penalty as well.
You know what? I won't get him on that much, because that's something where a puck could just easily slip off your stick. That's one of those ones where it's kind of just like, oh, okay, I may have just fired it a little too hard, or I was going for the glass and I missed the glass. But I won't get on too much for that. But the delay of game one is not a great penalty to take.
No.
Those are never good ones to take. Go through some of the other comments here and just see what's going on. Comment section. Yeah, what about Jason Arnott? Yeah, I answered this in the chat. That was a trade for Guerin. It was Billy Guerin that went the other way to Edmonton. Michael Sullivan saying, I think last year's early exit has them more cautious. I was just kind of going over things in my own head earlier on today. and saying to myself, I think the entire room, I think the entire team, they were read the riot act before this. And I think they understand that this is their last chance, really, before heads roll, I should say. They don't get it done. Like I think if they at the very least don't get to the Stanley Cup Finals, I think there are some key guys being moved. I wonder if it's someone like Kreider or something like that. But
I agree.
I think changes are made, and I think that's why I could see them. I could see them going far because there's resolve within this group. Like when Panarin comes out and says something like we have to win the cup. It tells me that there's definitely internal conversations behind the scenes about what the ramifications could be if they disappoint.
I love that quote from him because it just set the standards right there. And especially since he's one of the top guys in that locker room, everybody looks up to him. The young guys look up to him, and when he sets those standards, you know it's like, okay, we got to do something this year.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I'm gonna go do my stream though right now. So thank you for having me on for a bit.
Yeah, I'm actually going to wrap this up because it's about 12, so I got to get to sleep soon. So I'm probably going to go lay down and watch the game on my phone in bed or something. So, but definitely thank you all for joining us. I know the viewer count was rising. Sorry to kind of cut things short, but didn't want to be up too late doing this. But thank you guys both for joining in. And again, check out Rangers Central. Evan's going to hop on if you want to talk more hockey. He'll be on probably for a while. I know, Evan, sometimes you like to do those late night ones, especially that trade deadline one. Jeez, man. I went back to you earlier on in the day, and then I went back to you later on in the day, and you were still on. I was like, jeez, Marathon Man E. Maybe
Marathon Man E.
And we have Fax D over there before. Marathon Man E over there. And then here comes Evan to steal the viewership. Core drive by. Oh God, that's great. Oh man, but yeah, definitely check out Evan's stream because like I said, I'm gonna go to sleep. And thank you guys both again for coming on. Check out Ranger Central's check out their stuff as well. And obviously, we had Joey D in the comment section. So Ice Cold Takes, check out Joey D. Great guy, great material. So support everybody in the Rangers community here. So everybody, thank you again. Have a good night. And let's go Rangers. Hopefully it is 3-0 Rangers after Friday night.